Thank you, John. Welcome everybody to the CPG Brand Insider Summit. A little bit of personal, I took a little bit of personal privilege here in that I really packed the agenda. So I'm going to take my own advice, or the advice I give to all of the programmers on our team, which is keep the intro short, get the hell out of the way, let the smarter people on board. And I'm going to do that. This is all about brand. And in fact, when I brand MediaPost, when I talk to people about the MediaPost Insider Summits, I like to say that our summits are extensions of our journalistic judgment. And in fact, very few summits that we've done over the last few years, I think, really embody that as much as this. Most of the people on this stage over the next few days, we have either featured in our reporting. I've had many of them on my podcasts. These are stories that we've been cultivating over time and find really interesting, and all focusing on the key question of the reinvention of brand. The idea that in this century, brand is going to redefine itself. What is a brand anyway now under these radically new conditions, especially of media? You may not know it yet. But, and I will put on my professorial hat for a second, you are really living through a paradigm shift, not only in media, but in the nature of brand, because the two of them go together. For 150 years, branding from the time of the 1881 Trademark Act. See, I put a little history in here. I always slip in a little lesson, but there won't be a test. From the 1881 Trademark Act, that was the beginning of the modern age of branding, and it was completely tied to the rise of mass media. They weren't coincidental. The idea was that you could develop a distinct brand image for a company or a brand through and use mass distribution of magazines, newspapers, radio, and TV. The medium was the mission. That's what branding was. That's how we defined and thought about brand in that mass media era. And brand used to be highly generalized, very vague sets of attributes. The vaguer, the better. For instance, here is, anybody know who that is? Speedy, and deliberately fuzzy, by the way. That's a fuzzy 50s image, and that was part of it. Speedy was the Alka-Seltzer mascot, and he had one simple brand message, fast relief. And it was in a low-res cartoon format with a simple jingle that actually described the product. Anybody remember? Oh, what a relief it is. There's a jingle that actually described the process, super simple. Associations for a low-res, mass-mediated world. That's what the last century was all about. Quality, fun, fast, patriotic, upscale, downscale. These were the big categories of branding over the last century that really were a part of that idea. And you could use those mass media to imprint this messaging on a public with the blunt force of all of these mass-mediated platforms. That's how you could communicate a logo, a jingle, a catchphrase. No questions asked, no questions permitted. It was a very top-down affair. The last 20 years has seen the radical disintegration of that in a lot of different ways, and that means that brand has to change. Our whole concept of brand has to change. We have seen digital media not only decentralize and fragment the media platforms, but also democratize them through interactivity. And both of those things mean that brand has to change. It has to be much more specific now. When we talk about brand, it has to be an idea, an association, an alliance with a pre-existing audience or a personality, a set of values. That's the terrain of the new post-mass media world. Brand has been redefined because the ways in which we communicate it have been redefined, as has the audience. And a whole bunch of other issues cascade from this. And we're going to be taking those issues up in our panels in the more granular discussions over the few days, like finding audiences in a new mass media mix. Andy just mentioned retail media networks. That's a new thing that's been thrown in just in the last few years. Now your distributors are your media partners, but what are their interests? Are they really there and they have the purpose? Can they build brands for you? Or are they really just about pushing sales? How do you make direct connections in this universe? How do you grow your first-party data? And can you grow loyalty for CPGs? Do people really love their dish detergent enough to be loyal to it? Or is that just something that brand managers like to tell each other in their meetings? What does the next generation of consumer even look like? What is a generation that wasn't even raised with the memory of mass media? How are they going to consume? How do they even perceive brands? Those are some of the questions that we'll be answering in a lot of the panels. But a lot of the key themes across the next few days are partnerships and reinvention. Those are the two themes that I think course through especially most of the case studies we'll be talking about. Is brand built on celebrity now, and identification and partnership? In a second, we're going to be talking with Dave from Starco about Cardi B and the Whip Shots brand. We'll also be hearing from CAA's brand incubator Caravan. Both are deeply invested in this new idea of what celebrity means in relationship to a brand. Or is it partnering? We're going to be talking later this week with Ollie and Overnight Beauty. By the way, a partnership that was born out of an Insider Summit last year, and we're going to see the fruits of that partnership and the ways in which brands can share and draft off of audiences, and is that a way to build and expand a brand. Meaningful branding. Something that many brands have been paying lip service to over the last few years, but we're going to have with us Santa Teresa Rum, a Venezuelan rum company that is so deeply invested in its cause that it has fundamentally reshaped not only the company, but has catapulted the brand into a new level of recognition, not only in the country, but also worldwide through its Bacardi distribution. And reinvention. We have with us over the next few days 3 household names that have had to reinvent themselves: Bush's Baked Beans, Prestige's Dramamine, and Land O'Lakes. How do brands redefine themselves for audiences, especially younger audiences, that were never raised on logos and jingles and catchphrases? And certainly were not raised with the idea that any particular brand could own a category. So those are the new grounds that we're talking about here over the next few days. It is both a big, large strategic question of what does a brand mean now? How does it actually anchor itself in people's consciousness? But also in tactical terms, how that has cascaded through a lot of much more granular questions of execution. I hope those of you who are new to the summit, let me give you a quick outline of the basic summit rules here. First of all, everything on stage is on the record. We're MediaPost. We're one of the largest trade publishers of marketing and media news and analysis in the US. We will be reporting on this stuff, following up, probably follow-up podcasts and reporting. But at noon, when we go off stage and go off the record, we're going to turn this room into a series of open roundtable discussions. And the roundtables, I can't stress enough, really have always been the heart of our summits. It's where the content on stage gets activated into conversations. And each table will take up and extend one of the topics from the morning, and that's the place where you guys really get to talk with each other. And it will fuel, if we do our job right in these first 4 hours this morning, it will fuel all those discussions in the axe throwing and the golfing and whatever else you're doing in the afternoon while some of us are back in the room planning the next summit. So don't run out and catch a call. Don't go off and think that you can catch a quick meeting. The roundtables really are important to the process here. We've been doing this for almost 20 years, and I can tell you that that's where the payoff is. That's what really activates these conversations.